All right. Welcome back to Crooked Spine Show. My audience and everybody else who watching it on Facebook live or live downline on YouTube or listening to it on your podcast on Crooked Spine Show. Let's be healthy and wealthy at 100. It is not impossible. Okay. Here is your plan. Most of us do not think we could ever live past 25 years old. Okay. That's most people when we're younger, right? As we get older, the fear of dying, and not having enough money saved to enjoy retirement becomes a reality. Jon Sabes, correct?
Sabas, Tony.
Sabes,
Yeah,
there
you
we go.
got it. It's all good.
Helps us understand longevity science to enjoy living to a healthy 100 years old and how to set up our finances to support this lifespan. John, introduce yourself, my friend. Welcome from Minnesota. How are you?
I'm great, Tony. Great to hear from you. Thanks for doing what you're doing. Great to be here.
Of course, of course. And give me your background. Why did you first become conscious of living a healthy lifestyle? Why did that become is it you've always been that way, you're born that way, or how did that come about for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it has been pretty natural. It's sort of a natural pursuit. It's like, Benjamin Franklin. It's the thing, we're all in pursuit of this thing. And for me,
Good.
it just came real naturally. My parents seemed to do it. And yeah, for me, it was be active, get outside.
Perfect. And also, how do you have healthy habits and activities? How have they changed through, say, the decades, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s? You're 45, right? How old are you?
I'm 58.
You look good, my
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah, thanks, pal.
Botox is working for you. Botox works for you. You're good to go.
I love you already. Um, you know, um, for me, my journey and I'll call healthy and staying active. I mean, I was just naturally that way. Like I was just an active kid. I couldn't, and I grew up in the 80s or 70s for that matter. And, for us, growing up, our kids gave us a bicycle and said, I'll see you later. Goodbye. Good luck. We be back sometime after dark, and that was it, so that's who I was. And, I went to school, University of Colorado, and all I cared about was skiing and mountain climbing and girls.
Awesome.
Like that was it. The last thing on my mind was academics. And so, I've just always been, out this active person. Later in life, again, my career, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I got into the financial services industry. It led me into financial services and actuarial longevity and all of these things. I would say as well, when we had my wife and I of now 32 years, we had our first child. Like I needed to do stuff. Like all of a sudden there was a different sort of attitude, and I started running and cross country skiing, and that set me really on, I'll call a much more purposeful and intentional, call it exercise routine, simply because I needed it. I'm like, I got to do something because this work and child rearing thing is a lot, and I needed something. Otherwise, my wife was gonna throw me out of the house, and my son was gonna be like, "What is this monster?" So that really set me on a different path for my own, I'll call it exercise and physiology routine.
It almost makes you, and my kids are 22 and over now. As far as I know, I only have 4. A lot of it is how do you get the mental break, the mental stress relief, still stay healthy and feel good tomorrow? And having a little kid for one too. I have some right now. One of my staff actually has taken over a grandkid. It's like my back are just leaning over all day, holding a kid. It's different lifestyle for one too. It just, how do we get that right? We get that. And how old is your son now?
He's 32 years old.
So you've seen him grow up. He's on his own now. He's doing his own thing. How have you changed from running, for example, and being physically long-term, say long runs, long bike rides? How have you adjusted for my audience, say when you're now 45 versus when you're 25 or 30?
Yeah. So again, I went through a natural progression. I'd never run in my whole life. I started running. Why? Because I could run for 30 minutes and I was exhausted, and it had that release, that endorphin, that mental release that we need. And I moved the blood, and I got that became addictive to me in a way that I then started ramping it up, and I started doing triathlons and long distance stuff, and that was really interesting. And as an entrepreneur, I relied a lot on that. It was a place where I would find the answers to the problems that were challenging me. It was the place I would build resilience for challenges that were confronting me. And I learned a lot through that process, and I got my body stronger so I could keep moving forward in life. As I've aged, again, I'm 58. I was saying to my wife, I said, I can't believe in 14 months I'm going to be 60. I mean, this is ridiculous what happened. But I naturally, about, I'd say 5 years ago, I started ramping down the long distance stuff and started ramping up strength training. And again, hadn't read anything. I'm just sort of, what did my body want to do, And I really just naturally gravitated towards strength training, and I started lifting more. Boom. And come to know, like, all over social media and everywhere else, everyone's, got these jacked bodies at 50 something, but it turns out strength training is so important, as you know, Tony, to longevity, to a vibrant life. And so that's kind of the progression of my own arc, if you will, of, I'll call it, active training and thinking about my own physiology.
My buddy's about 5 years older than me, and basically says when you lift heavier weights, you produce more testosterone. Your body's hormonal levels, they lessen age per se. Your fitness age becomes less and less versus pounding a bike all day or swimming a lot or running on the treadmill or the street too. It's just different. Everyone's different for one. I think people on social media, basically, they'll all have Botox and have implants. So their shoulders look like this because that's what implants look like right there. Kidding. But a lot of it is, it's doing the work, right? It's changing your activity as we age, I think, to more specifically what we want to do, but still feel good and less chance of injury.
Absolutely. I became a big sauna enthusiast. So I do a lot of sauna. I love the hot room. I love contrasting that with getting cold or in the water. It doesn't have to be freezing cold. I'm not a fan of freezing cold, but I'm up here in Minnesota and our lakes freeze. And I said to a friend the other day, I said, sauna season just started because the north wind just blew in the cold air here.
Okay.
And it's just, sauna, I believe sauna is just probably, again, one of those wealthy, not from the term of financial wealth, but just physical wealth that you can do. It brings happiness. I mean, Finland, where this is just a cultural pastime, they're some of the happiest people on earth, and they are sauna fanatics. And I really, again, believe in sort of just this holistic approach to health and well-being.
Look, it's say you're looking for things like everyone should, what works for them, what they like to do, what's going to be good for their overall health, maybe infrared, maybe light bearing, other stuff they can do, but doing something, I think, is the key.
I couldn't agree with you more. I say that all the time. Every body is different. Every body is going to respond differently to different foods, different exercise. Some people like this, some people like that. I'm so with you. Whatever you like, whatever you're into is the right thing for you. For sure. I am not prescriptive. Move more, eat wisely, connect with others, and live with purpose, and that's a big open framework for individual interpretation.
And that's what, because I'm a chiropractor, I see a lot of patients. People come to me from something they're a medical doctor, and they're being told, because of your genetics, this is what you should do. You're all going to die eventually. Take all these meds just to help you feel better. So I think we're on a different page in that, which is good. But how would you explain in that sense, that paradigm of medicine versus, I want to call alternative health or just natural health? How would you describe genetics versus epigenetics? What is your feeling on genetics versus epigenetics? And how does that affect, say, someone's future health or age where they may pass away? Like we'll talk about actuaries in a second, but that kind of makes sense. My question, how does epigenetics and how do you say, in your mindset, does everything 100% go genetics where we're all going to die at a certain age based on our lifestyle or our parents, whatever it might be, or something to where epigenetics, where actually our body can be affected and lengthen longevity by our activities?
Yeah, great question. And it's one of the areas that I write about, and my career took me in a way in to understand biology in a way that I wasn't expecting. I'm sort of I had to relearn genetics, you know, when I grew up in the 80s, right? I mean, genetics for me was the sex ed class, you know, and I was much more interested in that than, because in the fact is, in the 80s, we didn't know a lot about, we knew what DNA was, but we really didn't know that much. And flash forward, you know, 40 years, we know so much more. My career took me into the commercialization of what are called epigenetic biomarkers of health and aging. So I was actually commercializing these biomarkers for the life insurance industry. And I said, there just has to be a better way to predict how long we live. You know, there just has to be, because the industry was relying on tests, I'll call it, you know, medicine 1.0 tests, and that were developed in the 60s and 70s. And we know there's so much more today than there was 30, 40 years ago. I became aware of the epigenetic clock that was discovered out at UCLA by Dr. Steve Horvath. Nice. I met with Steve. I licensed his technology for the life insurance industry. And I had an entire research crew researching and commercializing epigenetic biomarkers. And for the audience, we'll just explain the difference between genetics and epigenetics. We're all born with our DNA, half from mom, half from dad, and it's the place we start. The analogy, it's the blueprint. But you are the contractor. Lifestyle is the contractor. And lifestyle drives so much of gene expression. And when I learned this, and when I started to understand how DNA actually expresses itself in a physical way, it was mind blown. I mean, it's right out of science fiction, how DNA actually unravels, exposes a piece of the DNA to then synthesize the protein for which it has the instructions. Well, DNA has all sorts of errors and has all sorts of things that work right. But how does the DNA know which to unravel, which to close? They call it, close or suppress a gene expression or express the gene expression. And that's the science of epigenetics. And so when I learned about all of this, it really was it was like learning some secret, that this is how lifestyle drives gene expression, which manifests in health, health and wellness. And so there you go. So the science says genetics are 20 to 30% of who we are. The rest of us, right, is who we become. And who we become, lifestyle drives so much of that through literally gene expression.
It's amazing when you, and I won't say believe, because it's a science. Something, it's not a religion where you have to believe it. It's almost like, okay, we're almost like, how do we switch our mindset with you, your clients, my patients, that we have to do the work to stay healthy. We can't depend on just genetic. If simple genetics depend on that only, they will also depend on medications and or supplements too, to do all the work for them, which isn't true. It'll suppress, maybe like you mentioned, the blood work, the numbers showing that objectively you're fine, but it's the medication and not your actual natural health, which is
the analogy we always used it, like several of them, but one is, identical twins, genetically identical twins. Okay. Mm-hmm. Take one twin and put her on the couch and smoke cigarettes and eat potato chips and drink Coca-Cola and Pepsis and Haagen-Dazs and smoke tobacco. Take the other one, put her in Southern California, walk in the mountains, riding her bike, going to the beach on the weekends, hanging out with their friends, playing cards. I mean, over time, right, they have the exact DNA, but you are going to literally see two different people. And so that is just simply lifestyle. We didn't say she went to the gym and started pumping iron and was a, vegan. No, she just simply lived a healthier lifestyle than the other one. And so really it starts with a basic healthy mindset to avoid the medicine, to stay healthy longer, because we have it within our power, within our means to do that, to stave off chronic disease for as long as possible. And that really is our goal. We want to increase that health span to meet the lifespan. That's it.
It's amazing when when we believe that science, but we have to do the work also to do, like you mentioned, we have to do enough to stay healthy, but also learn what health actually is first, because it's not taught in school. It's almost like, how do I get down to maybe find like yourself or myself to where we can guide people to that process, which is great.
I love when you and I meet, and I was just mentioning I was with another health professional earlier today who's
Chiropractic.
And there's other ones. I mean, I'm aware of the current nominee for the Surgeon General, Casey Means. She's got a wonderful book out there, Good Energy, and she's all about this. Dr. Peter Attia, has got a great book, and he talks about medicine 2.0. And it's all about us taking control, having agency, knowing we have agency in the outcome of our health if we do the work. If we're just self-aware enough to live a little healthier, live a little better, it's a meaningful difference over time. Just like you were told when you were a kid, just put $1 a week in your account, and blah, blah, blah. And if you're 60 years old, you're gonna have $1 million. Of course, none of us do this.
Yeah.
But it's the exact same thing relative to our own health.
And part of it, I tell my patients, is you are your best doctor. Yeah. Do the work, ask the right questions, do your own research, do your own reading, educate yourself. This is your life education, not just for your career, but your life education, for one, to live for you. Going into also another thing too, Jon, is you talked about before a little bit about actuary and what is actual science. Actuary, how do you pronounce that? Actuary science?
Actuarial or actuary science, yeah.
I'll take your word for it. How does it predict really how our future health might be, our age might die? How does that work from an objective point of view?
Yeah, it's a really fascinating area. I'm working on a second book right now, an area of study. Actuaries work in the realm. We live in a world of probabilities, right? So I will probably live tomorrow, but there's a chance I won't. And so that's probabilistic. When you put pools of individuals together, groups of individuals of the same age, an actuary can predict how many of them will likely be alive in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. If we're all 60, well, it's probably about 0. So an actuary is a statistical mathematician who looks at the probability of living. And to understand the implications of this, when the Social Security Act was adopted in 1935, the life expectancy at birth was 61 years of age.
Wow.
Okay. So Social Security, the government, when they put this together, expected less than half of us to be alive to get Social Security. Now, today, life expectancy at birth is 77 years of age. Fantastic. And so these are what actuaries do. So they're the odds, if you will, of living. And this is all based on a group. Now, if you're 65 years of age today, the odds of you living another to age 80 are really pretty good. So you have to financially plan. You have to organize your life to 80, to 85. Living to 100 used to be a statistical anomaly. Centenarians are the fastest growing segment of our population right now. And with the aging boomers and what is all going on with this very large demographic bubble, we are in what we call peak 65. More individuals turning 65 this year than any year prior in the history. 16 million people will turn 65 years of age in the next several years. And 65 years and older is the largest segment of our population. 4 out of 5 individuals are going to be 65 years or older in the next couple of years. And so this is actuarial science and sort of predicting how long people live based upon their health. And that's all good. They're really good at groups and averages. Okay. But here's what I like to talk about. You are an average of 1. Okay. Averages don't apply to you. Okay. And what you need to think. So when you read science and when you read all of these things, it's all about groups and averages.
Yes.
Okay. You need to plan for you because you're an N of 1, a study of 1, and you may be an outlier.
I always tell my patients, you always want to be above average.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, right? You always want to do a more, you never want to look at yourself as the average population. You always want to be, what can you be above average? It's almost like you're looking at things like subjective. That I even had one doctor mentioned in his book that actually science is good, since where if someone has, for example, on medications for blood pressure, heart disease, cholesterol, does their risk of dying earlier, does that help their risk to live longer or shorter when on medication?
Yeah. So again, on a group, on an average,
Mhm.
it trends in a direction, right? If you
Mhm.
have an illness or a disease and you take the medication, it will trend you right towards a healthier outcome. But that's a trend, right? You are N of one, and your
Mhm.
job is to avoid uh,
The risks.
the diagnosis and the risk in the first place.
Mhm.
That's your job. And that's what you're doing when you're talking to your clients, is like, take control. You have agency, avoid that altogether as best you can, so that you increase the odds of living a healthier, longer life. And that's the best we can all do.
And going into it too, from actuarial science to longevity science, how would you explain that difference, or is there a compare contrast with both those things? Longevity science.
Yeah, longevity science is the study of beating the average, right?
Perfect.
And it's longevity science is how are we um, living longer than average, and how is the average increasing? Again, the average used to be 61. The average is
Mhm.
now 77. We've had
Mhm.
a longevity science revolution, and it's been driven by medical science in large part, and public health. And public health. And so these two things really are responsible for the sort of the first leg of longevity science. This next leg, and what everyone's all excited about and where a lot of research is going, is into what we call precision medicine, and
Okay.
looking at these precision medicines with the advent of AI or machine learning, low cost DNA sequencing. I mean, there was an article just put out that I guess Mark Zuckerberg's wife and Jennifer Doudna, who created CRISPR, are creating a company to look at developing specific genetic therapies for children born with genetic diseases. So we're
Yeah.
on the cusp of really exciting, I think, advances in longevity science, which hold a great promise for us to live potentially even longer and remain healthier longer. Which, from my estimate, that's the name of the game. I want to be living longer, but I want to be living healthier longer.
Yes. Yeah, and that's one thing. One nurse, one of my patients told me one time, a nurse, it says, you don't want to live a life now where you end up in a nursing home watching bad daytime TV and waiting for the nurse to change your bedpan.
That's right.
That's not why I want to live longer. I want to live longer because I can be healthy with my family, friends, people like John, myself too, move things around. And going into it, how is actuarial science and longevity science affect someone's financial state?
Yeah. Well, it's a really interesting journey to think about.
Mhm.
First of all, I like to say there's sort of two things you really want to avoid in life. First of all, I mean, the goal from my perspective in life is to, when you get towards the end of life, is to look back and say, my life has been a dream,
Mhm.
and I had the good fortune of taking care of my mother, who passed over the last year, but I was writing this book, and she said, my life's been a dream. And while I've been working in actuarial science and molecular biomarkers of health and aging, and in around the longevity industry for almost 2 decades, this thing called longevity had such a personal, like, it landed on me like a ton of bricks.
Mm.
And I was like, oh my God, this most valuable thing that we all have, this precious thing, is called longevity. And to make the most of it while we're here, to get the good things in life for as long as possible, so that, as I like to say, you could say my life's been a dream towards the end. And so how do you do that? And my thesis is you take care of this body, you practice self-care,
Mhm.
and you work hard to maintain some level of prosperity, so that, you can enjoy life, and you're not subject to the vagaries and the challenges of poverty. And because whether you're in poor health or impoverished, those are two places where, we as individuals should work very hard to avoid. And my hypothesis in America, those two things are avoidable, but you got to work for them. No one's going to give them to you. And so you work like a bear to get them and maintain them for as long as possible.
It's almost something where someone told me, if it's easy to do, everyone would do it. Life is hard. It should be hard. I mean, initially, obviously, at that point, you should be able to have to put the effort and time in if you want a good life. If you want to have the dream at the end of your life.
That's right. So when it comes down to money and financial planning, it's what's really challenging, and is that, the financial services industry moved from pensions and traditional pensions and social security and these things and we talked about actuarial science. It does a really good job at managing things at a group level so that it can take care of the outliers. Well, over the last 40 years, subtly, I can't talk today.
It's okay. You're good.
Policy changed so that corporations shed traditional pensions, and they said, hey, we're going to do this thing called self-directed IRAs, 401ks. Hey, you take responsibility for your own financial position. And people are like, yeah, I'd much rather do that. Why not? Damn. The problem with that, is you don't know if you're going to die at 70 or 100. That's 30 years of life that you need to finance for yourself. And so this is this outlier and this really big challenge that we have as a country and we have as individuals, which is how do we think about money and planning for longevity, because we are all living much longer than we have generally planned for. And it's a real challenge. And so those are the things that we're working on today at Longevity Financial Partners, as well as thinking about what does healthy aging look like, so that we can help guide people on the things what is important. We've spent a lot of time. We partnered with our friends at the Blue Zones, and Blue Zones is a wonderful source of research and knowledge about how populations in very unique locations throughout the world lived measurably longer without chronic disease.
Yes.
And were measurably happier. The interesting thing is they had very little in terms of financial resources. And so what we see is there are common things we can do around our lifestyle to set ourselves up for success over the long term. And
they've done the work. They've showed us the example. Can we mimic that in our own environment, our own life, our own, if you're in Minnesota or Southern California like myself, and do that? Because they've already showed it does work.
They have. In fact, Southern California has one of the 5 blue zones, Loma Linda, California.
I remember that.
Yeah. Loma Linda, California. And why is that? It's a community dominated by a religious group, the Seventh-day Adventists, and their religious belief holds this body as sacred. So they, by and large, are vegetarian. They have a strong community group. They practice exercise. They connect with each other. And that has led to really some extraordinary longevity and health and wellness in that particular community.
I'm about probably less than an hour, even like half an hour away from there too, where I live.
Well, I think the Blue Zones are working in Riverside County and throughout down in the Desert District to create blues. They're trying to replicate these Blue Zone communities, because what we learn is that you need the community environment can really help set people up for success with walking trails, with healthier choices at grocery stores and convenience stores. And so it's a big initiative going on in a lot of communities around the country.
It's almost like a form of good peer pressure, where if everyone else is going to Trader Joe's to eat, I'm going to go there also. Everyone's going to go for a walk today, I'm going to go also.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really, or making unhealthy choices harder. It's kind of like that. I mean, I'm a big fan of that. I guess, one of the political recent things that have happened is, food stamps can't be used to buy sugar-laden sodas, candy bars, and potato chips.
Yeah.
like, I mean, yeah. I mean, like that's actually helping people, like make healthier choices easier. You know,
I
we want
think,
to promote
but
healthier
I think in
choices.
2025 too, now things, because healthy choices are more the norm in some areas, they're not expensive anymore. They're not
That's
way
right.
out. They're not out here. They're more, okay, do you want to buy this standard chips, whatever, or do you want to buy this at the same price? I think just making the better choice sometimes, people just don't know. I call
That's
it
right.
just naive, but
That's
when you're forced to do one thing, okay, now let me try this, that is okay. It's okay to drink water instead of a soda every day.
That's
You
right.
know, well, it's simple. It's simple. It's easy, but why not? Right?
Yeah. Dan Buettner at the Blue Zones, he loves to promote beans. I mean, beans are one of the
Yeah.
cheapest things you can buy and one of the
Yeah.
healthiest things you can eat. You
Even
know, I mean,
Walmart now. Walmart has non-salted, no salt added beans too. They have healthier choices of beans
right.
for the same price. Hard as it. I don't know. Just again, we don't. It's something when you're like your personal trainer, right? You know all this stuff, but how do you get someone wherever they are the next level and help them not be naive anymore? Which is, I think, my at least my plan.
And I think, Tony, you know, maybe for the audience too, is to know that this body is so resilient. So no matter where you're at in your journey,
Mm-hmm.
there are so many studies that are out there that show once you start feeding this body, I'll call good energy, good food, good intention, it will respond like no other. It wants to be healthy. It
Yeah.
wants to be vital. And so just give it a chance. So no matter where you're at, I would just say, give that body a chance, stick with it. You know, do a 5K, walk a 5K. You can do it. If you've never run, walked, or anything, say, I'm going to find my local 5K and I'm just going to walk that. And I would guarantee you it'll start changing your life.
It's almost when you start doing that too, as you already know, then a 5K, that was easy. What's next? What's next? What's next? Then almost you hear that change in their attitude. I want to get healthier. I want to get healthier. I want to get healthier.
I did it. I didn't think I could do it, and I did it. Like that to me, and that's why I used to do the long stuff, because I kept going higher and higher and higher. And I saw that I could do things that I thought I couldn't do. And once I was sort of addictive. Like, well, what else did I think? What else did I think I couldn't do? You know, and that's that negative self-talk that, you know, we all have running through. I'm not worthy. I shouldn't do this. I can't do that. All of those are completely breakable rules. Those are self-limiting beliefs that are there for you to not go knock down. And the way you start knocking them down is you start knocking down the easiest ones right in front of you, and you get this positive reinforcement loop.
It's amazing when, like I said, someone and you know people. I know people. I have patients too, where they just don't have that yet. So I want to give them that little nudge. Let's try a 30-minute walk. Let's go 45. Let's go 50. Okay, what else can we do? Have you thought about a 5K before? It might be good for you. Do you know anyone who's done it with you that would want to do it with you for one too, and get them that accountability partner to go, let's start walking, let's start doing more, you know? So it's again, meeting where they are and then getting to more steps over time so they can get healthy and over time take care of their finances too. So getting into your book too, Jon, Healthy, Wealthy, and Longevity, help us understand how it prepares people to be healthy and financially stable at 100 years old.
Well, take care of this body.
Big question. Big question for you.
Big question. Take care of this body. Take care of, surround yourself with people who love you,
Nice.
who provide you energy. Maintain a purposeful life. Find purpose in little things and big things, in religion and secular beliefs. I mean, keep growing. Be a lifelong learner, and that starts to set that intention of living longer, because life is incredible. Financially, financially, it's, you know, work like the Dickens and save. Be frugal, you know, be frugal, and realize that, you know, spending is a mental game. You know, first you just got to take care of your needs, and then the rest of it's a total mental game. You know, don't compare yourself to others. You know, comparison is the thief of all joy. As long as you're good, everything else is good. And so, you know, get that nest egg and invest it wisely. The earlier you can start, the better, and there's all sorts of, I talk about financial literacy. So if you don't have financial literacy, I explain what a stock is, what a bond is, just be financially literate so you can avoid some of the financial mistakes that are avoidable in life. And so if you just do the basics and avoid the mistakes, you're really setting yourself up for being one of the lucky ones of living that super centenarian life and having the money to enjoy it.
It's almost you. And how does your journals? I saw some of your journals on your website, and also you talked about in some of your stories and YouTube channels, videos. How do your journals help get someone to that mindset, that mindset and action, obviously, on a daily basis?
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I developed what I call this little pocket prompt journal. I came across a Tim Ferriss podcast many years ago, and he was talking about this 5-minute journal, and I went to buy it, and it was like this 1.5 inch thick book, it had a year's worth of entries. And I'm like, well, I'm traveling all the time. I can't do that. So I designed something for myself that, I could travel. I all the time and take it with me. And then I printed it up and I started handing it to people. And so I took some of the techniques that were in the 5-minute journal. I condensed it down into this little bite-sized thing. And I've innovated, I'm on version 4, and I've integrated it into my book. Nice. Why journaling? So this is prompt journaling, and prompt journaling is different. There's a few prompts, there's a few structured elements to it where it kind of just sets your mind and intention correct. It sets you on the path for the day of what you need to do, what's important for you in your life. What are you grateful for? What could you have done better than yesterday, right? And so it gets you going in the right direction. And I like to say it's your self-coach. It is your accountability coach, because you can come back to it the next day and I look at it like, well, I didn't get that done, so I'm going to put it on my list again to do it today. And it's a way that I can be accountable to myself when I don't have my trainer, my coach, my Tony, my Dr. Tony, and he's not, it's my way of Tony. I'm helping poke myself in the right direction. And so that's what that journal is. They're really 30-day entries. I mean, here's my, this really skinny little guy. You can go in your back pocket. It travels everywhere. It's got little notes. And then at the end of 30 days, it's you reflect on that, and then you go again. And so I got stacks of these. I've been doing this for over 10 years. And I credit that technique as one of the bedrocks of my own success and achievement in life. And I've made them available to others as part of this. And I can almost guarantee you, if you do this, it'll make a meaningful difference in the outcome of your life towards your own goals and your own journey.
And it might be our generation too, where when we wrote things down, became more a part of you too.
Yeah.
Versus talking about it or putting in a text message, whatever it is. When you write it down, it almost goes from the paper, the pen, to your body, your brain, where you really want to do it. You really want to take action on those things you wrote down.
Well, I'll go a little bit one step further with you on that one. I mean, I'll go like metaphysical on that one. Okay. So your thoughts, right, are chemical energy, right? All a thought is some electro pulses zapping around in some neurons, right? And I'm manifesting those thoughts through talking to you right now.
Okay.
When you write something down, when you think of it and you actually write it, you are manifesting thought energy into physical energy. And it's this idea of the butterfly effect. The effect of this idea of this butterfly effect is that a butterfly's wings can be felt halfway across the world. For the person, it creates a vibrational law of attraction to bring things into your life that you want, because you have set your intention to it. You have manifested the thought into a physical act. That physical thought now resides on the page of a piece of paper, independent of your mind. So once your mind goes to, if your mind's like mine, it's a squirrel brain, I'm on to the next thing, but it's still sitting right there on the page. It exists in the physical world, independent of the thought. And so from my perspective, like, if you want to get woo-woo, and I'm not super woo, but I really do believe in this physical manifestation of the thought, and it begins with writing it down. And that's the first step you really need to take in order for it to continue to manifest itself. I want to have a healthy body. I write it down. The first step of me having a physical healthy body is writing it down, which then leads to the next step and to the next step and the next step.
It's amazing when you become, again, accountability, but also, like you'd mentioned, now it's part of the universe. Now it's part of your world, other people's world. Are they going to go, well, didn't he say that? Didn't he write that? What's going on? Didn't I write that down last week, last month?
Yeah.
You know, it's almost become something you have to do now because you wrote it down.
He's written it down every day for the last 100 days. Yeah. How can it not happen? He's written it down every single day for 100 days.
It works. It works.
It works. It may happen on the 100th day. Because it didn't happen on the first day. That's okay.
All right.
But I've written it 100 times now. Trust me.
You're determined at that point. You're determined. You've done it. You've done the physical work to make it happen metaphysically.
I've done the emotional head work to set it in motion to get it. I invested in this, man.
Invested.
I invested in this outcome myself, just me. Yeah.
Yep. And going into finances, why do people at any age almost, and probably a little bit more when we're looking into the future of not living past 25, why are people afraid of talking about finances?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think in large part, I think it begins with financial literacy. I think people,
there you go.
We teach kids to learn to speak, Spanish and German and French. We teach them how to do this. We teach them
trigonometry,
all these different languages. Yeah. We teach them how to do all these things, but we don't teach them how to balance a checkbook. We don't teach them what a profit and loss statement is. We don't teach them the language of money. And so I think a big barrier to talking about money is the language of money, and being able to talk about it in a way that makes like you can talk about it. So I think that's a big barrier. And then there's this idea that if you're talking about it, I don't know, maybe, people take things so personally and can't be sort of like, well, let's just talk about your money and your money situation. And we're here to help each other. It's like, I'm not here to take your money. I'm just here to help you understand what money is. And I see that even in my own family and some of my, where we're like, why is this difficult to talk about? But it is.
It's almost people get defensive, I think, too. Like, well, they don't want to say they don't know.
Right.
I think that's part of it too. And when you, like I said, when you're around good people, though, like, okay, let's talk about this. How do you get here? It's almost like when someone's open to being moldable, I call it being moldable, and learning, understanding, then it's almost like, let's take step one. Where are you? People don't want to tell you that they have $100 in their savings account. They're barely making rent every month because if they feel like humiliation, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of emotional, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we haven't been talking about it. And
Huge.
So it's just, so now it's sort of in the dark, and it's a very
stressful,
it's a fascinating, challenging area. And that's why I write about it, and by the way, it matters a lot in your own longevity and your health span. I mean, the upper income people live a decade plus longer than the lower income folks, actuarially speaking. It's weird, and so it's really important in so many ways, not only your health and wellness, but just to enjoy life. Yeah.
And how does your team at Longevity Financial Partners provide guidance in really that aspect? Yes, but also in healthy living, that the combination. How do you work with clients that want to get to a better state in both situations?
Yeah, we're focused on folks, I'll call 65 years or older. I'll call them the later stages of life, and really in that retirement planning phase. That's sort of our area of focus. And, there are some financial products that are available that really have what we call a low take rate. So annuities, for example, are a financial product sold and provided by insurance companies that roughly they've got about sort of 12% they think of eligible people who should buy them have bought them. And so by and large, people don't buy annuities for a variety of reasons. And so one of our goals is to just to create awareness, like, well, what is that product versus other products?
Good.
And then how does that combine with healthy aging to have the two things match up? And so by that, we partnered with the folks at Blue Zones, and we have our own book, and we have a newsletter, and we do webinars. And so that's kind of and we teach financial planners how to prioritize their clients' happiness and longevity and the role money serves in achieving that. Right. So the financial planner has a framework to think about their own clients' longevity and own health and wellness and the role that money should play. Then finally, later this year or early next, we're going to bring some really innovative financial products to the market. Some really cool cutting edge stuff, things that I learned about almost a decade ago. And I'm like, okay, someone has to bring this forth into the market, because this is a solve that folks really need. And so we're working on that right now. And like I say, later this year, early next, we're going to have some really compelling products that I think are going to just make a difference in people's lives.
And going back to your age that you deal with normally, 65 and over, what is their concerns, or what do they want to accomplish, I guess, by the time they reach 100, or what's their problems, I guess?
Yeah, well, the main problem that individuals get at this point is they get paralyzed and they get absolutely terrified of running out of money. And so this idea, because, you have this IRA, it may have a $500,000, $1 million, $1.5 million. How long is that supposed to last me? What should it be invested in? I mean, I might live to 70 or 100. That's 30 years. What's the cost of healthcare going to look like there? What about, how do I, so these are real challenges, and people can become absolutely paralyzed later in life because they may have plenty of assets, but they won't spend a dime because they're absolutely terrified. And so, what I like to say is there's two things to avoid, dying alone and dying broke. And you have agency in eliminating those two risks. And so our goal at Longevity Financial Partners is to help people avoid those two outcomes.
Smart. You're looking at, I think, someone's finances differently because you're understanding that it affects their health, their longevity for one, but just their health at that state, and where they may have, like you said, been frozen to not do anything because they felt, yeah, I have $1 million, but how long is it going to last me? And after taxes, if this happens, and my income, my property taxes go up, and then what else happens? It's almost like, let's narrow it down, let's get it focused, and see what we can do to make sure we control what we control. If not, we'll have some type of an extra here just in case that does happen. You take the stress out of their head.
That's right. So you can rebalance it in a way that you can remove that stress and that uncertainty. Because again, the uncertainty, the one thing that will never be certain is, how long do I live? And the variability on that, while we talked about it, actuarially, the average 65-year-old is going to make it to 80 to 85.
Another 20 years.
But you may be the outlier. You may be another 30 years, you may be 35. And so that's super stressful for folks. And so how do we deal with that in a responsible way?
And getting too close to the ending our show, anything we missed you wanted to bring up, Jon?
Boy, I think we covered a lot in a short time. I feel great about this. I just I want to go back to this idea that, it's never too late.
Good.
You're never out of time. And the day to start, living your better life is today. So if you feel like you can do better, you can. And this body is so resilient. And there's plenty of time to set yourself up for success, and connect with us at Longevity Financial Partners, myself on social media. We're here to help with that journey.
And I copied everything, your office number, email, your home address. I think I have it on there. I'm kidding. your work emails, you're setting up a meeting with you too. You're also obviously your book, a link to get your book, which I think is phenomenal. I read some of the prologue on that. Your social media, linked, LinkedIn, Linktree, and also philanthropy. You talk about Sabes Foundation. What is that?
The Sabas Family Foundation is a family foundation that my grandfather started many years ago.
Okay.
And, you know, he had a big heart, and he had some good fortune, and he gave back. And, you know, it's something that my father continued, and it's something that I'm continuing on, which is giving back.
When we get that point, it almost like that's your next step. I think when you have that uncertainties taken care of, you're financially and physically healthy. What is the next step? How do you make sure the next generation has that same aspect?
Yeah. How do you, and how do you instill a community to continue to care for those that are left behind or need additional support? Or, I mean, there's just, there's a lot to do. And, you know, as stewards of having good fortune and having, you know, the ability of mindset to take action, you know, then let's keep taking action. There's a lot to do.
We should, we will. Quick 5-second hold smile, Mr. Jon, with for the thumbnail. Anything else you want to talk about, my friend?
I'm great. Thanks, Tony. I appreciate you. Appreciate your podcast and the care and touch that you give others, man. That is a gift.
We're paying it forward. It's all we're doing. You know, we've done, like I said, we've been successful. Where are we at? Because we put the work in. I get you that. It's the work. But how do we make sure next people have this benefit of not only knowledge, but also how to take action? So thank you, Jon. I'm going to end the show right now, and we'll hold off for 1 second. Okay. Give me 1 second here. Thanks for watching, guys.